It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Niccolo Machiavelli, they tell you to just be yourself. That authenticity is the key. They sell you self-help books filled with empty platitudes about embracing your flaws. This is a comfortable lie designed to keep you exactly where you are. The truth is, the world is a stage and everyone is performing. The people who rise to the top aren't necessarily more authentic. They're simply better actors. They understand the subtle cues, the unspoken rules, the hidden power dynamics that govern every interaction. We're here to peel back the curtain, to expose the mechanics of social influence. We're not interested in fairy tales about inherent goodness or the power of positive thinking. We're interested in results, in understanding how people truly operate and how you can navigate the social landscape with intention and control. The "just be yourself" mantra is a shield for mediocrity, a way to excuse a lack of awareness and skill. It's a recipe for getting walked over, for being manipulated without even realizing it. It discourages self-improvement and active engagement with the world. It assumes that your default self is somehow optimal, that you have nothing to learn, no weaknesses to address. This is demonstrably false. We are all products of our environment, shaped by our experiences, and often carrying baggage that hinders our progress. To simply be yourself, without examining and refining that self, is to surrender your potential, to accept a pre-programmed existence instead of consciously designing your own. The truly successful understand that authenticity is not a fixed state, but a crafted persona. They choose which aspects of themselves to amplify and which to conceal, depending on the context. They're not being fake, they're being strategic. They recognize that different situations call for different behaviors, and they adapt accordingly. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology, of the motivations and vulnerabilities that drive people's actions. It requires the ability to read nonverbal cues, to detect inconsistencies between words and emotions, to anticipate the moves of your opponents. It's a game of chess played in real time, and those who understand the rules are always several steps ahead. We're not advocating for deception for its own sake. The goal isn't to manipulate others for personal gain, but to protect yourself from being manipulated, to understand the forces at play in every social interaction, and to make conscious choices about how you respond, to take control of your own narrative, and to shape the world around you according to your own values and goals. The "just be yourself" philosophy is a comforting delusion, but it's a dangerous one. It leaves you vulnerable to those who are operating at a higher level, those who understand the hidden game, and who are not afraid to play it. We're here to arm you with the knowledge and skills you need to compete, to thrive, and to become the master of your own destiny. Human behavior is rarely random. It's a complex tapestry woven from instinct, learned patterns, and conscious calculations. To truly decode it, you need to understand the underlying psychological drivers. People are fundamentally motivated by a desire for pleasure and an aversion to pain, but these concepts extend far beyond the physical. Social acceptance, validation, and status are powerful rewards, while rejection, criticism, and feelings of inferiority are deeply painful. Understanding this fundamental principle is key to anticipating and influencing behavior. Every action, every word, every microexpression is ultimately driven by the pursuit of these psychological rewards or the avoidance of psychological threats. This understanding allows you to move beyond surface-level observations and to see the underlying motivations that shape people's choices. Consider the concept of cognitive biases. These are mental shortcuts that our brains use to simplify complex information and make quick decisions. They're often useful, but they can also lead to systematic errors in judgment. For example, the confirmation bias is the tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs and to ignore information that contradicts them. This can make it very difficult to change someone's mind, even when presented with overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Similarly, the availability heuristic leads us to overestimate the likelihood of events that are easily recalled, such as those that are vivid or recent. Understanding these biases allows you to identify and exploit vulnerabilities in people's reasoning. You can frame your arguments in a way that appeals to their existing beliefs, or you can use vivid examples to make your message more memorable. Another critical aspect of decoding human behavior is understanding the role of emotions. Emotions are not simply irrational impulses. They are powerful sources of information that can guide our decisions and shape our interactions. Fear, anger, sadness, joy, and disgust each serve a specific purpose, and they are often expressed through nonverbal cues such as facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. Learning to read these cues is essential for understanding the emotional state of others and for responding appropriately. For example, someone who is feeling anxious may exhibit signs of restlessness, fidgeting, or avoidance. By recognizing these cues, you can adapt your communication style to reassure them and build rapport. Conversely, someone who is feeling angry may display signs of tension, clenched fists, or a raised voice. In this case, it's important to remain calm and to avoid escalating the situation. Beyond individual psychology, it's crucial to understand the dynamics of group behavior. People behave differently in groups than they do when they are alone. The desire for social acceptance and the fear of social rejection can exert a powerful influence on individual behavior within a group. This can lead to phenomena such as conformity, obedience, and groupthink, where individuals suppress their own opinions or beliefs in order to align with the group consensus. Understanding these dynamics allows you to navigate social situations more effectively and to influence the behavior of groups. For example, by identifying and appealing to the values and norms of a group, you can increase your chances of gaining their acceptance and support. Frame control is intrinsically linked to understanding these deeper psychological principles. When you control the frame, you are essentially shaping the context in which information is perceived and interpreted. This allows you to influence people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. For example, if you want to persuade someone to take a particular course of action, you can frame it in a way that highlights its benefits and minimizes its risks. You can also use framing to reframe negative experiences in a more positive light, or to emphasize the positive aspects of a challenging situation. The power to control the frame is the power to control the narrative, and the power to control the narrative is the power to influence the world around you. This isn't about lying or distorting the truth. It's about presenting information in a way that resonates with your audience and that aligns with your goals. It's about understanding how people perceive and process information and using that knowledge to your advantage. The game is always being played, whether you are aware of it or not. The key is to understand the rules, to master the strategies, and to take control of your own destiny. Consider a scenario. You're in a meeting at work and a colleague, let's call him Mark, presents an idea. On the surface, it seems like a collaborative effort, a genuine attempt to improve efficiency. But beneath the surface, a subtle power play is unfolding. Mark's idea, while seemingly beneficial, subtly positions him as the expert, the one who has all the answers. He meticulously lays out the problem, exaggerating its severity, then confidently unveils his solution. He frames the situation as a crisis averted, solely due to his insightful thinking. The room, initially skeptical, begins to nod in agreement. Mark has successfully controlled the frame. He's not just presenting an idea, he's presenting himself as indispensable. Watch closely how he subtly dismisses alternative viewpoints, subtly interrupting anyone who dares to challenge his assumptions. He uses jargon that only he fully understands, creating an air of intellectual superiority. He appeals to the boss's desire for quick solutions, promising immediate results, even if the long-term consequences are questionable. He's not necessarily wrong, but he's deliberately manipulating the situation to his advantage. He's subtly undermining the contributions of others, positioning himself as the sole savior. The meeting ends with Mark receiving praise and accolades. His idea is implemented and his reputation soars. But what if you had recognized the game? What if you had seen through the carefully constructed facade? You could have challenged his assumptions, questioned his motives, and offered alternative solutions. You could have subtly shifted the frame, exposing the underlying power play. You could have reminded the group that collaboration is a team effort, not a one-man show. This isn't about being malicious or vindictive. It's about protecting yourself and ensuring that decisions are made based on merit, not manipulation. It's about recognizing the subtle signals of dominance and asserting your own value. The workplace, like any social environment, is a constant battle for status and influence. Those who understand the game are more likely to succeed, while those who remain oblivious are often left behind. Understanding these dynamics is not about becoming a manipulator yourself, but about becoming immune to manipulation. It's about recognizing when someone is trying to control the frame and having the tools to counter their efforts. It's about maintaining your own autonomy and ensuring that your voice is heard. In this scenario, Mark used several tactics. He exaggerated the problem to create a sense of urgency, then offered his solution as the only viable option. He used jargon to intimidate and exclude those who didn't share his expertise. He subtly undermined the contributions of others to elevate his own status. These are all classic techniques of frame control, and they're used every day in workplaces around the world. The key is to recognize them when they're happening and to respond accordingly. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, and to offer alternative perspectives. Remember, the goal is not to win every battle, but to protect yourself and to ensure that decisions are made in the best interests of the group. The chessboard is always set, and the game is always being played. Are you ready to make your move? The unprepared are easy prey in the social landscape. They stumble into traps laid with subtle suggestions and cleverly disguised power plays, often unaware they've even entered a contest. This vulnerability stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of human behavior, a naive belief that interactions are inherently honest and intentions are always pure. This is not to say everyone is malicious, but that unchecked assumptions are the foundation of manipulation. Those who fail to decode social cues, to recognize the underlying agendas that drive behavior, find themselves constantly reacting, never initiating. They are puppets dancing to a tune they cannot hear, their strings pulled by those who understand the rhythm of social dynamics. The weak in these scenarios share common characteristics. They tend to be agreeable to a fault, prioritizing harmony over truth. They avoid conflict, even when confrontation is necessary to protect their own interests. This fear of upsetting others makes them easy targets for those who are willing to exploit their politeness. Their silence becomes consent, their passivity a license for others to take advantage. This isn't simply about being nice. It's about a deep-seated fear of rejection, a need to be liked that overrides their own sense of self-preservation. This inherent neediness broadcasts their weakness, a flashing beacon in the social darkness, attracting those who seek to exploit vulnerabilities. Another common trait is a lack of self-awareness. They are often blind to their own strengths and weaknesses, making it difficult to assess situations accurately. They underestimate their value and overestimate the abilities of others, leading them to defer to authority figures even when those figures are wrong. This self-doubt creates a power imbalance, allowing others to control the narrative and dictate the terms of engagement. This isn't just about confidence. It's about a realistic understanding of their capabilities and a willingness to assert their expertise when appropriate. Furthermore, many who fall victim to manipulation lack a clear understanding of their own boundaries. They struggle to say no, to assert their limits, and to protect their time and energy. This lack of boundaries invites encroachment, creating a slippery slope where their resources are slowly drained, their autonomy eroded, and they will gradually bend to the whims of others. This isn't about being selfish. It's about recognizing their own needs and prioritizing their well-being. It's about understanding that saying no is not a rejection of others, but an affirmation of self. Without these boundaries, They become reservoirs for the needs and desires of others, perpetually depleted and resentful. Moreover, these individuals often operate with a flawed mental model of the world. They believe in a meritocratic system where hard work is always rewarded and fairness prevails. They fail to recognize the pervasive influence of politics, social connections, and subtle forms of coercion. This naive worldview blinds them to the reality of power dynamics, leaving them vulnerable to those who operate outside the bounds of ethical behavior. This isn't about cynicism, it's about realism. It's about understanding that the world is not always fair, and that sometimes you have to fight for what you deserve. The trap is not always obvious. It's often disguised as an opportunity, a favor, or a gesture of goodwill. The manipulator uses flattery, guilt, or social pressure to lower their guard, creating a sense of obligation or indebtedness. Once they've taken the bait, the manipulator slowly tightens the noose, extracting concessions and manipulating their behavior. The victim, feeling trapped and confused, often complies out of fear of conflict or a desire to maintain the illusion of harmony. To avoid these traps, it's crucial to cultivate a healthy dose of skepticism. Question assumptions, challenge narratives, and be wary of those who seem too good to be true. Develop strong boundaries, learn to say no, and prioritize your own well-being. Cultivate self-awareness, recognize your strengths and weaknesses, and assert your value. Understand the dynamics of power, recognize the signs of manipulation, and learn to counter their efforts. The goal is not to become a manipulator yourself, but to become immune to manipulation. It's about protecting your autonomy, asserting your voice, and navigating the social landscape with confidence and awareness. By understanding the tactics used to exploit the weak, you can protect yourself and create a more equitable playing field. The game is always being played, but you don't have to be a pawn. You can be a player. The player understands that information is currency, and silence is power. They observe, analyze, and listen more than they speak, gathering intelligence about their opponent's desires, fears, and vulnerabilities. They understand that people reveal themselves in subtle ways through their body language, their tone of voice, and the topics they choose to avoid. The player masters the art of active listening, paying close attention not only to what is said, but also to what is left unsaid. They identify inconsistencies between words and actions, and they use this information to build a comprehensive picture of the individual's character and motivations. This is not about judging, but about understanding, about recognizing the underlying currents that drive human behavior. By understanding these currents, the player can anticipate their opponent's moves and position themselves for advantage. The player is a master of emotional detachment, able to observe social interactions with a cool and calculating eye. They don't allow their own emotions to cloud their judgment or influence their decisions. They understand that emotions are a powerful tool, but they can also be a weakness, a vulnerability that can be exploited by others. The player cultivates a sense of inner stillness, a state of mental clarity that allows them to remain objective and focused under pressure. They learn to recognize their own emotional triggers and develop strategies for managing them effectively. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions entirely, but rather channeling them constructively, using them as a source of insight and motivation. The player understands that emotional intelligence is not about denying emotions, but about understanding them and using them strategically. The player recognizes that perception is reality. They understand that people's beliefs and expectations shape their experiences, and that they can influence these beliefs and expectations to their advantage. They master the art of framing, presenting information in a way that supports their goals and undermines their opponents. They understand that the same event can be interpreted in multiple ways, and that the power lies in controlling the narrative. They carefully craft their words, their actions, and their image to create a desired impression. This is not about lying or deceiving, but about strategically shaping the context in which information is received. The player understands that people are more likely to be persuaded by arguments that align with their existing beliefs and values, and they tailor their messaging accordingly. They are skilled at identifying biases and prejudices, and they use this knowledge to influence opinions and sway decisions. The player embraces ambiguity and uncertainty. They understand that the world is complex and unpredictable, and that there are no easy answers or guaranteed outcomes. They are comfortable operating in the gray areas, where information is incomplete and risks are high. They are skilled at making decisions under pressure, based on incomplete data and imperfect information. They don't demand certainty, but rather embrace the inherent uncertainty of life. They are adaptable and flexible, able to adjust their strategies and tactics as circumstances change. They are not afraid to experiment, to try new things, and to learn from their mistakes. The player understands that failure is an inevitable part of the learning process, and they use their failures as opportunities for growth and improvement. They see challenges as opportunities, and they approach them with a sense of curiosity and determination. The player understands the importance of building alliances and cultivating relationships. They recognize that no one can achieve success alone, and that collaboration is essential for achieving ambitious goals. They are skilled at identifying potential allies, building rapport, and establishing mutually beneficial relationships. They are generous with their time, their resources, and their expertise, and they are always willing to help others succeed. They understand that reciprocity is a powerful force, and that by helping others, they are also helping themselves. They are skilled at networking, building a broad network of contacts that can provide valuable information, resources, and support. They are also skilled at managing conflicts, resolving disputes, and maintaining positive relationships even under difficult circumstances. The player understands that strong relationships are a valuable asset, and they invest time and effort in nurturing them. The player is patient and persistent. They understand that achieving meaningful goals takes time, effort, and dedication. They are not discouraged by setbacks or obstacles, but rather view them as opportunities to learn and grow. They are willing to work hard, to persevere through challenges, and to never give up on their dreams. They have a long-term perspective, and they are not focused on immediate gratification. They are willing to delay gratification in order to achieve greater rewards in the future. The player understands that success is not a destination, but a journey, and they are committed to the process of continuous improvement. They are always seeking new knowledge, new skills, and new experiences that can help them grow and develop as individuals. They are lifelong learners, and they are constantly striving to become the best versions of themselves. The player recognizes that appearances matter. They understand that people make snap judgments based on first impressions, and that these judgments can have a significant impact on their opportunities and relationships. They carefully cultivate their image, paying attention to their clothing, their grooming, and their body language. They project confidence, competence, and trustworthiness. They are mindful of their social media presence, and they carefully curate their online image. They understand that people are more likely to trust and respect those who present themselves well, and they use this knowledge to their advantage. This is not about being superficial, but about recognizing the power of nonverbal communication. The player understands that people are constantly sending and receiving signals, and that they can use these signals to communicate their desired message. The player never reveals their true intentions. They understand that transparency is a vulnerability, and that by keeping their cards close to their chest, they maintain a strategic advantage. They are skilled at concealing their emotions, masking their true feelings, and projecting a carefully crafted persona. They are masters of deception, able to mislead their opponents without resorting to outright lies. They understand that the truth is often subjective, and that they can manipulate perceptions by selectively revealing or concealing information. They are skilled at misdirection, drawing attention away from their true goals and diverting their opponent's focus. This is not about being dishonest, but about protecting their interests and maintaining control. The player understands that information is power, and that by controlling the flow of information, they can control the outcome of the game. Think of the rise and fall of empires. Every empire, from the Roman to the British, understood the dynamics of power, influence, and control. They didn't just conquer territories, they conquered minds. They understood that lasting dominance required more than military might. It demanded a deep understanding of human behavior. They studied the cultures they sought to control, identifying vulnerabilities and exploiting weaknesses. They fostered alliances, created dependencies, and manipulated perceptions to maintain their grip on power. Their strategies were complex and multifaceted, but at their core, they were rooted in a fundamental understanding of what motivates people. Fear, greed, loyalty, and ambition were all carefully orchestrated to serve the empire's interests. Just as a skilled player reads their opponent, empires read entire populations. They anticipated reactions, neutralized threats, and shaped narratives to solidify their rule. They understood the importance of propaganda, using it to control information and shape public opinion. They built monuments and institutions to project their power and authority. They created systems of rewards and punishments to incentivize compliance and discourage dissent. The parallels between imperial strategy and interpersonal dynamics are striking. Consider the art of war. Sun Tzu in The Art of War emphasizes the importance of knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. This principle applies equally to the battlefield and the boardroom. To effectively navigate social situations, you must first understand your own strengths and weaknesses, your own motivations and biases. You must also be able to accurately assess the motivations and biases of those around you. What are their goals? What are their fears? What are their vulnerabilities? By understanding